Let me ask you this: how many players do you need to create a group from which you're sure the Cowboys pick would come from at 24, assuming they don't trade up?
Yeah, you need a pretty good cluster in terms of you're a team and you're planning it. I know. My process is much different, obviously, than the Cowboys. When they formulate their cluster, they're thinking about different scenarios, different values. They're looking at position scarcity and fits and projecting who could be available. For me, I'm going to have like 6 or 7 mock articles written. So if the Cowboys draft player A, we'll be able to publish immediately, or player B or C or D and so forth. And then if they so happen to draft somebody who's not on the list, then it's going to be a furious write in order to get something on the website. That's more my cluster. Theirs is much more, they have a lot higher stakes than I do. But yeah, I would think we need to have several names in mind, and then be asking yourself, all right, if this player becomes available and falls down to a certain point, or do we want to trade up? Is there value there? You have all these sorts of simulations as an organization, as a staff, to go through, so that on draft day, nothing is a surprise to you.
How many of those stories, or how much of those stories would you have written before the draft even starts? Do you pre-write any of that?
Yeah, I pre-write them all. So probably a good 6 or 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's an annual tradition that is overall proves to be a tremendous waste of time.
Hey, Michael, and you're outstanding at your job, and I really appreciate the coverage you have, and I think the fans benefit from all that. Okay, Cowboys are going to have their pre-draft meeting tomorrow with the media. First question out of your mouth tomorrow for Jerry Jones.
Why is Kelvin Joseph still part of this team?
There we go.
Yeah, and I think it's the way I probably have a tendency to ask too long of questions, but I would probably not ask it so direct. I mean,
no, go ahead. Jerry will understand that. Just go right for it there. I think he'll understand.
Yeah, but I think certainly that's a question that some will ask. Is
sure.
One of your players was in a vehicle from which 2 men allegedly fired several shots, one of which shot a 20-year-old man in the head and killed him. And your player did not notify, apparently, police for nearly a month before that contact occurred, based on the public being asked for help identifying the men who were in that surveillance video. Why is Kelvin Joseph part of this team? I think it's a fair question. It's one that needs to be asked directly, and it's one that the Cowboys know to expect, because they understand, as reporters, those are questions that we need to ask.
So the fact that Kelvin Joseph has been part of the off-season program so far, and I agree with you. I was kind of thinking that maybe that there was going to be, hey, Kelvin, take some time off here, and then we'll bring you back after this. But are you hearing that there might be changes with Kelvin Joseph, though? Kind of, I'm hearing some whispers there might be, don't put the hay in the barn on this one yet.
I think it's an evolving situation. I know for Dallas police, it's an evolving situation where they're not ready to say that he won't be charged, or that any of the other individuals who are in that black SUV will be charged. I mean, it's evidence is being collected. They're making determinations about who knew what and when and so forth. And so, there's a number of bodies who are leading an investigation on this. You have, of course, Dallas police. You have the Dallas Cowboys, and you have the National Football League under their personal conduct policy. So right now, as it stands, Kelvin Joseph is an active, able part of your Cowboys. But any one of those 3 at any point in time could act, and that could very well change the landscape of Kelvin Joseph and his Cowboys future, his Dallas future, his NFL future, and just his own personal, as an American citizen, free to roam wherever he wishes, citizen. That could very well change as well for him.
Michael, do you think big roster moves are on the way after the draft?
Could be, yeah. I think you look at this roster, and the Cowboys feel like they have enough flexibility where they can go various ways throughout the draft. But theoretically, we talk a lot about offensive line. If they don't do it, certainly on Thursday, but even day 2 in the 2nd or 3rd round, I think at that point it's time to talk about Eric Flowers. It's time to talk about some of these other free agents who might be available and what their options are. Because if you're counting on day 3 to fill one of your most, arguably your most pressing roster need, that's just not same as addressing your need. You may have drafted a player at your position of need. It doesn't mean you actually address your need. You need to truly invest at, say, your next left guard. And so, do the Cowboys have to draft an offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman at number 24 overall or on day 2? No, but if they don't, they absolutely need to do something afterward, by acquiring a veteran. And Eric Flowers, based on what season that he had last year at left guard for Washington, obviously not a strong team, but you can still find value there, and he's available. So that to me is an example of a move that the Cowboys still could make based on how the draft goes or doesn't go on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
To what extent are the Cowboys going away from this recent history of building with the majority of their assets on offense and shifting over to defense?
Yeah, it's definitely been noticeable. I mean, as someone who started covering the Cowboys in 2019, I had a lot of catching up to do in terms of gathering a bit of a frame of reference in terms of how they invest, across their roster. But there's some, fortunately, really good, first writers at the Dallas Morning News and elsewhere that helped me be up to speed a bit, including David Moore, who did an expansive look at this very topic recently. But also, the certain websites like overthecap.com, I believe, is one example where they have year-by-year breakdown of where teams are spending, both by position group and offense versus defense. And it's very clear that more than most teams, the Cowboys have pointed and lean more into that offensive area. And, you look at where they're paying their running back, where they're paying certain members of their offensive line, quarterback, with Amari Cooper was more so. But yeah, that they've been tilted toward offense for a really long time. And when you have some of these players on defense that the Cowboys have, it's really young ones that they've been able to identify and draft through the draft. Michael Parsons, Jerry Jones might need to prepare a loan for that extension when that comes down the road. There's going to be more of a balance that naturally will come based on how the Cowboys have worked and operated at the draft. They want to be a draft and develop organization. Well, a big part of that is rewarding the players that you draft and develop. And so, be it Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, we'll see how they all go. But no doubt, over the course of time, you might see a little bit more balancing just based on the way the drafts have played out for them.